5150. For those of you who don't know, it is a involuntary mental health hold that, I don't know if it's like for any other state. I know it's for California, so they have that. When it comes to Jacqueline and her friends, also, I just remembered this, in my last video, I accidentally called Jacqueline Glenn Jacqueline Hill, which I didn't notice until, like, it was published, so, whoops. So Jacqueline, the thing with her and her friends that they decided to do this, I don't think, like, they did this for malicious purposes, obviously. Like, I'm almost positive that everybody involved did this with the best intentions, that this is what they thought they had to do, but I think it was a terrible decision and kind of dumb. So, for reasons we will get into, but this was not a good idea. Once we get down the line to this, you're gonna see that the logic doesn't really track. I think a part of the reason why this happened the way it does was the public pressure. For people who's, like, not, like, their jobs is not being in the public eye, which is, there's one thing for being, like, in the public eye, and there's another thing for your job being in the public eye, or two different things. It's really hard to get away from the kind of pressure that a lot of people will put somebody like that under. And Jacqueline was under a lot of pressure for even being associated with Eugenia.
It's not my place. This is something that people have been harassing me about for years. For as long as I've known her, people have been really angry with me for being a friend that does nothing. You know, how can you have a friend that looks like that and say nothing? You're letting your friend die and you don't even care. Why don't you call a doctor? Why don't you call an ambulance? How can you live with yourself? How do you sleep at night and do nothing? It's been my place to step in for so long, and now I do.
And that could really affect how somebody goes about their day. That's gonna be hard for anybody. So I think that, you know, that could have contributed to kind of like the rash and emotional decision that they made, and them kind of going off of hunches rather than actually confirming anything for themselves. Like the whole thing with the mother. Like I said, remember the last part, because the mother is kind of intrinsically involved in this. So we already discussed how it's reasonable that the mom was bad because she wasn't there, she has no idea what's going on. It's a lot. So throughout this, they made it pretty clear that they didn't believe that Eugenia's mother would have ever allowed her to go to the doctor. They bring up the 5 years thing.
Hadn't been to a doctor in 5 years.
Okay, so she was 25 years old at the time of them making that video. During the 5 years that she hasn't been to a doctor, she was also an adult. So I don't know why you're putting that on her mom, because you can't, they even acknowledge it, that you can't, like, force an adult to do anything that they don't want to do. So
it just is concerning that she's that old, she's an adult. And there's really, from our knowledge, been no or not much of an effort for her to have gone to get help. And as an adult, you can't sign someone into a inpatient facility, a hospital. You can't force them to do anything, which is why the 5150 was necessary.
I don't even know why that was even mentioned. It felt kind of deceptive, considering it just said how, like, you know, time that she hasn't been to the doctor is 5 years, but they didn't mention anything with age. So if you're unaware of how old Eugenia is, and Eugenia seemingly acts a little bit younger, a lot of people, I remember when people were talking about how old she is, people were like, wow, I'm surprised, I thought she was like 18 or something. So if you were under the impression that she was 18, you would have heard that 5 years thing and thought her mother was extremely neglectful. But if you know how old she is, like, I don't even know why the fuck they mentioned it. And they know how old she is. They were her friends. Speaking of her mother, according to them, they didn't mention anything like, they tried the soft approach, they refer to it, because they were afraid of Eugenia's mother cutting off contact with them.
Very delicately trying to bring things up because we were fearful that her mother would never let her hang out with us again. So that is the truth.
One of the girls mentioned that there was a party, and she mentioned something about, like, Eugenia's thing.
I asked her in person at some point, and
We did at Jesse's birthday party.
Yeah.
According to Eugenia, no such conversation happened.
Like, I know some of these people will go saying, like, we talked to her so many times before, when, like, literally none of that stuff happened. Like, people, like, we talked to her at this party. No, people talk to me about other things at the party. Never that.
Now, I do want to point out that this live stream that I'm pulling the Eugenia's statements from happened pretty recently, within this year, I believe. Yeah, within this year. Because she kept on referencing her crying on stream, and that only happened once. That is a weird, like, if she was lying, that would be, like, a weird thing to remember specifically from the video. So it's more likely that she's telling the truth about that, which, like, I don't believe any of these people, like, anybody in the situation is lying. I think it's just, when they were trying to discuss things with Eugenia, they were being extremely, extremely vague. More than likely, extremely, extremely vague, because they were saying how they were doing the soft approach and how fearful they were of Eugenia's mother cutting off contact, so they probably didn't outright say what they were talking about, and so Eugenia had no idea what they were trying to say. I think it was just a failure of communication in every sense of the word. Like, Jacqueline didn't even try to, like, talk to the mother about, like, Eugenia's health, like, privately. She only met her once, so I don't know how she would have ended up doing that, but Jacqueline and Jacqueline's friends aren't Eugenia's only friend group. According to somebody who showed up on a now deleted live stream from Repzilla, who was on the phone with Edwin's generation, and according to him, he was speaking to Eugenia's mother, and they were finding facilities to help Eugenia with her disorder.
You need to focus on your friend. I am focused on my friend. I want her to be okay. I care about her very much. I'm literally the person that got her into rehab in the first place. I helped her and her mom get into this fucking place. We talked for hours. So stop coming at me, you know.
So, So a lot of people, I guess, assume that whole thing with Eugenia and her mom having this conversation was a lie just because Eugenia was saying that. But, you know, there was another person backing up that statement that Eugenia's mother was concerned about her and was put something together to help her out. So there's that. And Jacqueline clearly didn't have any idea that this was happening, so she's not in contact with everybody in Eugenia's life. Maybe she wasn't as close as she thought she was with Eugenia, because I feel like she would have known about that, but there's also that. Another thing, all of it, every video that Jacqueline Glenn made about the 5150 situation always mentions Eugenia's mother and how Eugenia's mother is really a bad person. Like, Eugenia shouldn't be around her. She needs to get out of that house.
You know, we saved her, and I do not think we saved her because she is still in the same environment, in a dangerous environment with the same people who for years of her life when she was struggling told her that she was fine.
And yet, Jacqueline Glenn and her friends forcibly put her in a state-run facility, because that's what the 5150 ended up resulting in, her going to a state-run facility that was not a great place. According to Eugenia, it was actually pretty scary, which in my brief glance of how these kind of things go, yeah, that sounds about right. I'm going to show clips of Eugenia explaining, like, what that facility, the first facility that she ended up, was during the involuntary hold of 5150, and then she ended up going to another facility. And then there's the facility that Eugenia willingly went into. So a lot of people get confused when she talks about how scary the 5150 was, because she went to 2 different facilities. When she's referring to the 5150, she's referring to the place that she was put in right after the police took her. I want to just clear that up real quick. So, you're gonna notice that this is jumpy. I had to edit out. People are asking her questions. Things get off topic a little bit, so I'm just trying to just keep it relatively, into the section, so.
And the other thing people always get wrong is that they confuse the treatment center with the 5150 72-hour hold place. The hold place was the bad spot, and they try to make it sound like you said the treatment center is bad. Yeah, guys, and I'm not trying to at all say treatment centers are bad. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that, yeah, when I was in that, 5150 facility place, it was very traumatic for me in a lot of ways. I experienced a lot of very scary things. I literally felt like I might die. It was very scary. So yeah. How was it scary? It was scary in a lot of ways. There was a lot of people yelling and screaming. There was a lot of people swearing at each other, screaming, cursing at each other. There was literally one guy that was trying to steal people's pants and going in people's beds. It was just, to me, sorry if this sounds dumb, but it just felt really traumatizing in a lot of ways. And a lot of people that work there, some of them would even make kind of rude comments about me, and they just would not take you seriously. They just kind of treat you like a crazy person. So was it just for EDs? No, it was also for people that were dangerous to other people. There was one guy that literally was wanting to hit people with cars. Obviously there was no cars there, but he came there wanting to hit people with cars. It was just really bad in a lot of ways. It was very scary. People saying it's dumb, never had to go through it. Yeah, it's I don't know if a lot of people just don't understand. They're have never been in that kind of situation. Which I understand, guys. Probably a lot of people have not been in the situations that I've been in. But yeah, it was just really scary. It was just very, very scary. How long was I stuck in there for? It felt like eternity. It felt like a long time. I was there for about 2 days, I think. Then my mom luckily kind of helped me get out and explain that. It didn't really do me any good. And I honestly think for a lot of people that do end up in a place like that, I can't imagine it would really help them a lot, especially with the way that a lot of people are being treated there. So I mean, that's just my experience, being completely honest. No, because the system is dumb, and they just throw everyone together regardless of the issues they have. Exactly, Robotoxin. And see, guys, that's the thing too, is that I think it's more the system. I think just kind of throwing everyone together and treating everyone the same like that. I really think sometimes that's where a problem can rise, in my opinion. If you're okay answering, Eugenia, did you spend most of your time in there in isolation, or are you with other patients most of the time? Thanks, Eugenia. Ian, okay, well, it's fine. So you're saying in the first place I was in, right? No, I was definitely not in isolation, and I feel even though that still probably would have been scary, it probably would have been better. I was in a room with a lot of people, with just a ton of beds, and just a lot of things going on were very scary. So yeah. Yeah, I literally felt like I was in jail, and there were actually a lot of people being sent over from jail. There was one guy that kept talking to me there that was actually just came out of there from jail. I think he was transferred or something. I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of people actually coming over. There was a jail right next door.
So, her friends put her in a bad situation. She explained how scary it was. According to Eugenia, nobody ever contacted her.
Asked me before they made videos. No, they just went and made those. They just went and made videos. She made videos because she was still extremely concerned. Well, then why don't you at least try to talk to somebody instead of just going and making videos, to me, that's just kind of a weird way to go about things. To not even attempt to talk to someone the entire time they're gone. and to just literally just be going and making a bunch of videos about them, like, right when they come back.
I mean, Jacqueline says that she makes the assertion that there was no way of contacting Eugenia.
It kind of amazes me that anyone thinks the ability to reach out privately is even an option for me. I don't think it ever will be again, you know?
I don't even think she fucking tried, really. You trick her to go into your house, you blindside her with an intervention, and then now she's being taken away, like, into a involuntary hold. Was not a pleasant experience, and then you don't even try to contact her. And you expect that to end up with her leaving her immediate family. What? That doesn't make any fucking sense, man. I have no idea why they thought this was gonna work. Like, Eugenia clearly has, like, they say that the mother is in control of everything, but they have no evidence of such a thing. I don't understand why they couldn't even tried. Like, I doubted they even fucking tried to even get a hold of Eugenia at all, because according to Eugenia, nobody tried to fucking contact her, like, at any point. The video that they made explaining the 5150 situation was, like, directly after Shane's video with Eugenia. When they heard wind of Eugenia being out, they didn't even, like, try to contact her and maybe see, like, where she's at mentally or whatever. And they're supposed to be her friends. Like, she's gonna feel hella abandoned after something like, I don't see how that was gonna help her at all. Especially when she's like, when you're saying she's in an abusive situation. Even if that was true, that's just gonna further isolate her. Because now, the people that she thought she can trust put her in a scary situation and then cut off all contact with her. Never even try to contact her or anything. This was doomed to fail the whole time. Like, this was never gonna achieve the things that they thought it was gonna achieve. And, like, it seems so short-sighted, too. Of course, her mother is going to be the one who's gonna get in contact with her after that. She's gonna be the support. So, which is only going to further cement in Eugenia's mind that her mother is her only support. This was a terrible idea. I don't know how you guys thought this was a good idea. I don't know how I gotta get off that, because I'm gonna keep on saying that over and over again, because it's like the gymnastics that your brain has to do to come to this conclusion is maddening. So pretty much that's the whole thing with the 5150 release on Jacqueline and Glenn's end. While we're still on the topic, whenever Eugenia brings up the 5150 and how, like, when she was in the first facility, it was scary, because it sounds like it was scary. People get on her case about making recovery sound scary or whatever. That's what people fucking say. Especially BELLE AUBREY.
Platform to only acknowledge your problem by saying you should never get treatment for EDs. I mean, I regretted getting treatment, but maybe it'll go okay for you. That is just such a disgusting...
Here we are again with BELLE AUBREY, making the most uncharitable interpretations of what Eugenie says. What else is fucking new? I would like to steer all of your guys' attention to a video done by a very big YouTuber that was about people's bad experiences when it comes to mental health facilities. That was viewed by a lot more people than any of Eugenia's videos. Even though she's like a million plus channel, she has million plus subscribers, she doesn't really get that many views. I don't, like, this video that I'm talking about, where people who had bad experiences with the mental health facility and how it stands, you know, a lot of people who are advocating for people who are in facilities that Eugenia was in. That video has been out for a while. I haven't seen a fucking peep from BELLE AUBREY talking about how that is harmful to people from getting help because they're making help sound scary. This is, once again, a video by a big YouTuber, just like Eugenia, and the video has a lot more views than any of Eugenia's videos. Where's that energy? I don't see it. Since we're on the topic of BELLE AUBREY, I can jump into the next bit. lot of ways, Eugenia is in a lose-lose situation, particularly when it comes to her audience. For example, anytime that there's even, like, a thought that there might be a weirdo in her audience, like, there was, like, at least 2 weirdos in her audience once, who were kicked out, by the way, that is forever her audience for the rest of time, and it is her fault for having them there, even though that doesn't make any fucking sense, and we would not apply the same thing to any other creator ever. Even Repzilla, he had a weirdo in his audience. There's a crab guy who made a video a little while ago. He made a video, he explains it. I'm just gonna link down in the description so you guys can see what the hell I'm talking about, but yeah. Or her audience is either a bunch of weirdos, or their children, even though people who are saying this have absolutely no evidence to prove that her audience is children, but they say that like it's a fact. Usually when they bring up this point, they preemptively mention that you can lie about your age on YouTube. Whatever evidence that she brings up that her audience aren't all children, they're all gonna say that the evidence is wrong. Even though they don't have to bring any evidence to show that her audience is children. She's the one who has the burden of the proof, apparently. Even though that's not actually how that works. It's the person who's making the claim is the person who has the burden of proof. If you're saying something is true, you need to back it up. If you're saying that somebody, I don't know, stabbed somebody, it's up to you to prove that that happened. It's not up to the person that you're accusing it to prove that they didn't do that. Because it is very hard to prove a negative. It is extremely hard to prove a negative. And to be putting that on Eugenia is super fucked up. And we're making her jump through hoops that we don't do to anybody else but her. Okay, if you go through any of the videos that are speaking negatively about Eugenia, a lot of them seem to have the problem with her merely existing on the platform. Let's be real, that's their deal. That rhymed. They will harp on and on about her image, like how she looks. And her posting videos and images of herself is encouraging people to look like her. Even though every time that anybody brings up that they want to look like her, or people should look like her, or anything like that, she always bats that down really fast. I've heard it said so many times by Eugenia that people don't have to look like her, people shouldn't feel like they have to look like her, and they're fine the way they are. You can go through any of her live streams and you will find that statement in there. If anything, she's doing everything she can to not encourage it, but, like, I don't know what these people want. Like, she can't gain, like, 10 pounds overnight, because that would not end well for her if she tries to do that. Because we know how this works, at least on the medical side. Well, the physical medical side, not the mental medical side. Because a lot of these people who talk about this thing don't actually know what the medical, like, psychology kind of side says. Because they're just wrong about a lot of things. One of the people who are wrong about the things was whoever the hell made the petition, because they say 9%. And when they're talking about EDs on this thing, because that's what they're saying, that 9% of people have this ED, and when they're talking about ED, they're talking about the thing that Eugenia has, or that we're all assuming she has. And that is actually factually incorrect. It's less than 2% of people who have ANA.
Prevalence and statistics. Anorexia. Although it is probably the most known eating disorder, anorexia is not the most common. According to the Center for Behavioral Health Statistics and Quality, anorexia is less common among adults over 18 than bulimia and binge eating disorder, BED, occurring in less than 0.1% of the adult population. According to another study from Current Psychiatry Reports, when younger women, 15 to 19 years of age, are included, the lifetime prevalence of anorexia increases to 0.9% of women in the population. In addition, contrary to many perceptions, 0.3% of men exhibit the disorder at some point in their lives, usually later in life than women do. This results in a total of 1.2% of the population 15 and older that has anorexia at some point in life. This compares to a 1.6% total prevalence for bulimia, and 5.7% prevalence of BED. Despite its lower prevalence, anorexia has historically resulted in more deaths than bulimia or BED. However, the mortality rate from anorexia has been decreasing since the late 1980s. It is assumed that the reason for this is the improvement in medical and psychological treatments since that time.
So yeah, actually, BED, or binge eating disorder, is a lot more prevalent than Anna ever is, or ever was, or ever is, or ever going to be. I mean, Belle, in particular, Belle Aubrey, likes to harp on. Oh, she did in that one video a lot, and she does in most of her other videos, but in that response to Willie Mack, she harped on the idea that Eugenia is an influencer. I mean, it's just the title that the genre has been given. It's not always applicable, but whatever. Some people are just fucking train wrecks, and we just all want to watch this train wreck, but whatever.
When you're a creator and you have a large audience, you're called an influencer. And influencers influence people.
For starters, a lot of people apparently think that if you just look at a person with this ED, you can catch it. Not how that actually works, as far as I can tell.
Causes. While the specific causes of eating disorders like anorexia are not known, there are some circumstances that make anorexia more common in certain societies and areas. Based on a fact sheet from the Office on Women's Health of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, these may include cultural beauty ideals, relatives or friends who exhibit the behavior, trauma, stress, depression, and other psychiatric issues, personal genetics, hormonal issues, and other body chemistry issues. It is hard to determine which of these may come first in any situation. The circumstances surrounding a particular individual beginning to exhibit these behaviors or leading into the full disorder are likely different than those of any other individual. For this reason, personalized treatment is necessary to help manage the symptoms for each person.
By the way, when I was doing everything for this video, I stumbled upon a video of this woman who's way smarter than me, who is a content creator, and she also did a little bit of research too, and she came to pretty similar conclusions that I did.
Of obesity has doubled since 1980. So how are we still going to rely on media exposure? Of course, skinny models and those who appear to be malnourished are more prevalent in the media, so how is the obesity rate substantially bigger? Maybe it's because the fact that we live sedentary lifestyles and also have easy access to fast food, which are extraneous variables, which means the media exposure argument is absolute bullcrap when it comes to body image. It is a risk factor, it's not the risk factor, and it's not the cause.
So, look at that. Out of all the people who make videos on Eugenia Cooney, only 2 people actually took the time out of their day to look into the medical research on something like this. Something that I have to remind you all is a diagnosable condition. People can go to a therapist and get diagnosed with this. There are treatments based off of medical science to deal with this. This isn't an arbitrary label. This is serious. And Belle Aubrey and all these other people, including Repzilla, we'll get to him in a few minutes in this segment, but all these people do not take it as seriously as they absolutely should, even though they're acting like they are. If they actually fucking did, they would have took the time out of their day instead of combing through all of Eugenia's fucking tweets to find something that makes her look like a bad person. They would have Googled this condition that they are so gung-ho about. Eugenia getting kicked off the platform for her having it. And I think part of the problem is with a lot of this, and I'm not just calling out specifically Belle on this, also a creator that I like did this as well when she made her video, Ready to Glare, where they were talking about from their own personal experience from this, and only their own personal experience from this. If somebody gets cancer, that doesn't make them an expert on cancer. We all understand that, right? Your own personal experience with something does not trump medical research or somebody's fucking degree. Get real. Like, oh my god, all these people are also like fucking adults. There's this video that I would like to talk about. So, Ripzilla. Now, I was under the impression that he walked back to all this stuff and he's realized that that the shit he's done in these videos are wrong. But nope. Because in the latest video about opening up, that's the name of the fucking video, that's long, that goes over every single scandal. Most of it, the runtime of the video, is devoted to the stuff that was brought up in the Premique video. Suspicious, I know. But at the very tail end, he mentions the Eugenia thing. He does the thing where he says that a tweet framed his video in a certain light, and that's what everybody's basing that particular video off of. Motherfucker, I watched the goddamn video. Shut up. He did that last time with the last video that I covered, and it's just like a pattern of behavior with him. The video has Eugenia's face in the thumbnail, and Eugenia's name in the title. And, he actually doesn't acknowledge it until the end, that Eugenia actually has nothing to do with the website. So, we'll get into that. But he begins the video with that stupid thing where she moves the bin back and forth. By the way, I didn't catch this last time, but one of those donations were apologizing for something from earlier in the stream. So I'm pretty sure that person who donated these guys' side. So he begins with that, which is poisoning the well a little bit. And then he goes into cerulean butterfly crap.
So here's the tweet in question. It says, being different isn't a bad thing. It means you're brave enough to be yourself with a blue heart and a blue butterfly. This is in correlation to her outfit, which is blue. And there's one comment here. It says, these are quotes found on pro-Ana pages that exist. I've seen it myself. The blue butterfly is clear pro-Ana symbol. I don't know how people don't see this. It's such horrendous example to look up to.
So the outfit that she's wearing in the picture is blue. And there's only one butterfly emoji, and it's the blue one. And this is a very common thing for Eugenia to do. If you look through her Twitter, just take a little quick scroll. Usually when she posts a picture of something, she accompanies it with emojis that correspond with what she's taking a picture of. I saw a picture of a reindeer on her Twitter, and she has, a reindeer emoji with it. With her outfit, she has something that goes along with the color. So her outfit's blue, she's got a blue heart and a blue butterfly. Those are two things that are blue. Nothing about it was really malicious. Keep in mind her little quote, because he's gonna do something stupid with that.
Selfless motivations, quotes, very similar to what Eugenia would post. Well, it was on this place, it was everywhere. It was almost like this is what this community was about. Even despite it being a terrible overall thing that ails them, it's covered up with positivity. Let's go to the Instagram page. Never apologize for being powerful. Good morning. Nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Happy Wednesday. Crush it today. Love yourself. Wake up, beauty. It's time to beast. Surround yourself with people who are only going to lift you higher. Happiness is like a kiss. You must share it to enjoy it. You are so much stronger than you think. Interesting. Being different isn't a bad thing. It means you're brave enough to be yourself. Difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations.
Wow, kinda similar. That's the best you got. He doesn't have a direct quote or anything, which could be a little bit damning. It'll show a little bit of plagiarism. But, the expiring quotes aren't anything unique to somebody with an ED. Like, this is some basic self-help crap that you would see everywhere. I'm pretty sure there's a line in that Bo Burnham song, White Woman's Instagram, that mentions inspiring quotes. So this is a standard thing, okay? This is not even a point. I don't even understand why we're even fucking here talking about it. It's so frustrating that this is so unbelievably brain dead, and he put it in the video. Like, he edited this together, and there was a lot of times where he could have just said, you know what, this is kind of a stupid point that doesn't make any fucking sense. But he didn't. And we're here, and I'm mad about it. So one thing I want to make note of, so all the sort of damning stuff that he talks about the website that he's on, he had to use the Wayback Machine.
I found through the Wayback Machine some very, very disturbing information that I need to share with you about what these communities are.
Because nowadays, that site has a lot more resources cited to help people if they need it. They're a lot different than they were back in the day. That's kind of the way things go sometimes with the passage of time. People change and they find better ways to deal with certain things. Every website kind of goes through its ebbs and flows. We're also going to get into why the fact that he's doing a video on this and the way he frames this is kind of stupid. We'll get there, don't worry about it. He makes weird-ass claims throughout this entire video that aren't substantiated at all. Like, the biggest one that I remember that just stood out to me was when he was saying that, like, they worship this ED.
Even gets so weird as to talk about Anna and Mia as a type of deity to worship. I'm not joking.
Yeah, so we all understand, like, kind of like the language around religion, right? Like, when you're talking about, like, a religious figure or a religious experience, there's a certain type of, like, wording that goes along with that, right? There is no examples of any type of wording like that that is brought up. So that's substantiated. He also kind of, like, makes the person who, by the way, like, when he reads it out, she acknowledges that she's sick and she's dealing with a lot of mental anguish, but he doesn't beforehand. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that the woman who runs the site, she's like dealing with an ED and also a bunch of other mental issues, but he says that, like, she wants horrible things to happen to people.
Because what had happened was, Tom's wrote an article about this, and I'll show you this in a second. So this person got a lot of hate from a lot of people because they raised awareness about how dangerous this website was. This person took these people's emails and doxed them and said that they hope that these people get harmed. This is the person that made and runs this website that did this.
But when he reads it, all she just wants is this similar thing that happened to her, which is a bunch of people just sending her a bunch of hate mail to them.
Only human. You know, why do you think it's okay to try and hurt and scare me? If you're here, you must know that I have an ED and struggle with self-injury. I'm a effed up, rather fragile kid with a lot of self-doubt and self-hatred. I take criticism too seriously, and all the hugs and support in the world can't take the sting out of some of the things that have been said to me by people on this site. Just as my words have the power to make you angry and sad, your words have the same power to hurt me. I'm not saying you have to like me or my site and what I have to say, but for Christ's sakes, I'm a human being, not a punching bag. And yeah, I'm putting your email addresses. I hope you get hate mail too. I'm more than allowed to bite back. So,
an email is not like, okay, so an email address maybe is a little scummy to post an email address, but that's not the same as, like, a personal phone number or an address. An address is a completely different thing that should never be posted, because that's, like, really fucked up. Not that bad. I don't know why you're making her sound like she's an awful monster. So, throughout this whole thing, he's making a big stink out of this being something that should not exist, right? That's his whole thing. He also talks about, like, them talking about how to, like, exist with this ED, which sort of translates into harm reduction. A person that people bring up when it comes to this sort of topic, when it comes to Eugenia, is of Herbs and Altars, and he made a video talking about anaforms and how they could possibly be harm reduction, and he has clearly benefited, or Herbs here has clearly benefited for being on those sites, because in the other videos that people talk about, like the first one that people talk about when it comes to those fetish forums, Herbs brings up that those people who were on the site with him were like family now because of everything they went through. So already you see a personal account of these forums not actually being like the boogeyman that these people make out, but also, guess what? I found that from a medical source, not what you think.
The Internet. A new challenge has arisen in the struggle to help people recover from anorexia. Over the last 2 decades, with the development of social media, a movement that is referred to as pro-anorexia or pro-ana has evolved. These sites are often viewed as perpetuating the disorder, and thought to be dangerous to young people who might be at risk of developing the disorder who have stumbled onto the sites. However, certain studies, including one from Sociology of Health and Illness, propose that the purpose of these sites is more complex and can in fact serve as a support for those who are struggling with recovery in some ways. Another study from the Journal of Health Psychology suggests that these groups provide a type of social support for people who are dealing with anorexia, and some findings show that these sites do not necessarily contribute to higher rates of the disorder. Nevertheless, it is important for people who are treating anorexia, or for those who suspect their loved one may be dealing with anorexia, to be aware of these sites and their potential to contribute to the risks associated with this disorder. Recovery.
Hey, look at that! A Google search away, you can actually figure it out. Like, it's not actually a bad thing. So I don't know why people demonize these websites, because it's not really. Big part of this kind of like the side effects of Anna is social isolation. I think talking to somebody who's going through something similar to what you're going through could be potentially helpful. I don't know how y'all don't know this, especially frickin' Repzilla over here, who clearly has an American accent. Healthcare isn't that easy to get a hold of. Like, it's hell of expensive. I have found a source that says it's hella expensive. These people are just normal people who probably don't have like the money to actually go to these things, and a lot of mental health stuff isn't actually covered by insurance. So this is probably like the closest that they get to actual like, and I just don't really like this at all. Like, shortly after this video, he brings up in another video where his viewers bring his attention to another group.
About Eugenia, somebody sent me in a Facebook page that was very much tied with the blue butterfly, the cerulean butterfly, and if you're unfamiliar, I did a video talking about this and the underground pro-ana community. In this video, we talked about the dangerous underground communities and how they teach other people to exist with these types of illnesses in plain sight and different methods, and we went in a lot of detail. I'll put that video also in the pinned comment. Because I made this video, you guys have been being watchdogs out there on the internet and sending me in different specific examples of where these communities are hiding.
No. No. Don't fucking do this. This is disgusting. Like, these people don't have, like, a public platform. They're not influencers. They're just people. They're sick, and they have a problem, and they're dealing with it the best ways they know how. Trying to, at least. Harassing them like this is not gonna help them in any shape or form. This is gross, and you should not encourage it. I can't believe you're fucking encouraging this. This is disgusting. I know you have a bad track record when it comes to mentally ill women. Just fucking leave these people alone. Don't draw attention to people who clearly aren't doing well. It's also kind of exploitative, really. If you want to go there, we're going there. It's exploitative. Stop it. When clearly you have no idea what the medical science actually says about how to even talk about something like this. Well, we'll also get into that. Alright, so we're gonna talk about that. So I found a therapist woman who is a licensed therapist. In the video that I found, she talks about how therapy is kind of approached in a medical sense. So, for context, this is not like about like Eugenia, like where she talks about this. She's talking about it in a broader sense, but the video itself that I'm taking the clip from is not about Eugenia. It is about weight, but the other side of weight.
But also, as the person who has 2 degrees and thousands of hours of experience in behavior modification and in helping people achieve goals in their behaviors, I feel qualified to weigh in on this issue. Fucking no. That's not how you do it, Paul. I'm really comfortable in refuting that. That's not how it fucking works. There's actually a whole ass modality that was developed for helping people alter their behavior when they struggle to like put rubber to road with the goals. It's called motivational interviewing. It was actually developed specifically for medical professionals in assisting with things like smoking cessation and other sort of like typical problem behaviors at the doctor's office, because doctors are typically pretty fucking bad at creating motivation for behavior modification. But again, this is something that therapists are especially skilled at, and one of the things that we know is that when we provide a safe place with compassion and empowerment and a shame-free space, that people begin to change. Because more often than not, people, when there is an identified behavior change that they want to happen, they are willing to get there. It's just usually that there is fear, or there are barriers, or there are things that are getting in the way. And so the role of the helping professional is to figure out how we can identify those, how we can remove those, and how we can overcome those. None of that involves browbeating a person into like forcing them to change their ways. Like, that's never helpful. The thing that I say to my clients all the time is that people don't do better when they feel worse. And that's like such an old school way of thinking, that you can just beat people into submission by being mean to them, and that's never how it works. Because even if you achieve the behavior modification, all you've done is instill a deep feeling of shame, and the person has modified their behavior out of fear and out of shame and out of self-loathing, and that will manifest in different outcomes later on, and it cripples a person's ability to show up authentically with a sense of vulnerability. And there are all different types of impacts that creates relationally, on a self-esteem level, on a mental illness level. Like, just, it's never good.
Tough love is kind of how everybody approaches Eugenia on this. And what do you know it? These people who aren't licensed therapists in any shape or form, Repzilla and Belle Aubrey, you guys aren't licensed therapists. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This lady is, and she's telling us tough love is not a viable way of treating anybody with any sort of mental illness. Who'd have thought? I mean, after all the years of people doing the same shit and nothing changing with Eugenia, you would think they would have kind of like figured this out already, but it looks like they're all subscribed to the definition of insanity. So people going in there and to her streams and telling her that she needs to get help, or people who like Belle Aubrey who make these videos who are very obviously aggressive towards Eugenia. Especially in her last 2 videos that she made about Eugenia. Very aggressive. So, they should have come to that conclusion that what they're doing isn't helping. So then why are they doing it? And I think, weirdly enough, the answer is in that weird guy, like that weird horse dude's video. I don't remember his name. I don't care to remember it. Whatever. I put it on screen, so it's not a big deal.
And this trolling and hate doesn't just extend to the streams, it extends to all of her videos too. As you can see, the like to dislike ratio is insanely bad. And there's reason for that. The problem with Eugenia is she doesn't know when to take help. After the Shane Dawson documentary, which showed that she was in recovery, people noticed she was losing weight again. They tried their best to encourage her, but you can only encourage someone so far before it comes out of bitterness. There's a difference between wanting to help and not wanting to watch someone kill them.
Like, he says that like that's not a character flaw. Everybody who makes these sorts of videos on her are just... I'm not saying that they're not malicious. Some of them seem a little bit like they're being purposely obtuse, but they might actually mean it when they say they want you to get help. At least initially they were meaning that. But now they're just bitter bitches. They're just so bitter that they want her off the platform. But really, it seems like Belle just wants Eugenia off the platform because Eugenia is affecting Belle, not for anybody else. That's why I use the term think of the children, because that's usually what people use as a shield when they just don't want something because they don't like it. They just bring up children for just so it's a little easier to make their point. It's a manipulation tactic, and it's pretty blatant. But moving away from her, there's still a bunch of people who are, like, I scroll through her comments every once in a while, and there's a lot of people who are being either straight up aggressive or passive aggressive when it comes to Eugenia. I think a part of this is some bizarre parasocial relationship. Well, not bizarre, this is exactly what a parasocial relationship ends up resulting in when it comes to somebody dealing with something like this. That because these people feel like they're close to Eugenia, because they're her fans, even though to her, y'all are strangers, commenting on her life. And it's so weird that nobody else has, mentioned that. Even though it's, so, obvious. Once again, a lot of people who talk about this are adults who should, frankly, be more self-aware. I don't know why nobody's self-aware when it comes to this topic. It's so weird. And it turns out, Eugenia isn't the only person who's really dealt with something like this recently. Herbs and Ulsters, I'm bringing up Herbs a lot in this video, made a video talking about how he actually relapsed, and he experienced something kind of similar to Eugenia, and within this video, he talks about both his personal experience and kind of how he's been talking about, Eugenia and how other people talk about Eugenia. And, yeah, I think it was actually a pretty good video.
Speaking, the absolute opposite is the truth when it comes to wanting attention, and all these other misconceptions that people have about anorexics online, because the attention you get is horrible. The attention I would get online prior to my relapse was often too much for me anyway. I'm not an attention person. I don't like it. I don't have birthday parties because I don't like being the centre of stuff. It's a big issue. But it was nice to chatter about things that I enjoyed with people. We'd talk about outfits and knitting and fun stuff. And then I relapsed, and suddenly it was weight stuff, and it was angry people, and it was worried people, and it was intense, and it was too much. And so when you're making these comments about someone's weight, you're not ripping out the roots, because you don't know what the trauma is they're dealing with. That unfortunately just makes them pull back. It makes them feel like everyone hates them. It makes them feel like they're doing something wrong when they can't stop it. It makes them feel like they owe the world 1,000 explanations. That is a place for therapy, is not a place for online.
Eugenia is kind of a unique person, considering she is really the only person with this kind of thing, when I can name a bunch of different people with binge eating disorders that are popular, but really we can only name one that is like Eugenia, and that's Eugenia. The closest is kind of Herbs over here. Probably Eugenia is feeling similar to what Herbs described feeling, which is overwhelmed about a bunch of strangers that she doesn't know dogpiling her all the time, every day. And I don't think it's helpful in any way, because it feels like it's constantly bringing up her ED, is even when she's not trying to think about it, is only reinforcing that this thing is overwhelming and is her whole life, which I think we should probably stop doing that, because clearly it's not helping, because we're still here, aren't we? But then again, I don't actually know what's going on in her head. That's just a speculation on my part. I don't know, if I was in her situation, I would feel that way. It's kind of upsetting a little bit. It's she can't go a day without people reminding her of her thing. I think what it's starting to become when it comes to the topic of Eugenia, this frustration that people feel about her not doing what they want her to do, which is once again, y'all are strangers. This thing is a lot more complicated than just how people make it out to be, really. And that's kind of the thing with most mental illnesses. It's not as easy to get over as, like, people make it sound. I mean, a lot of these people claim that they're, like, you know, mental health advocates, but no, you're not. You just want somebody to behave the way you want them to. But everything that I've shown in this video and the last video seems like they have come to this conclusion that Eugenia is a bad person, and then everything else is just their way to justify this. This is basically Texas sharpshooting, if you understand that analogy. So, and that's why these things feel so like how do people actually believe this? Because they're overwhelmed with emotions and they want to believe this, regardless of how irrational and crazy it sounds. How little sense it actually makes, how little evidence there is to prove it. They just want to be mad at Eugenia, and they don't feel like they can because of their actual reasons for being mad at Eugenia. It's kind of fucked up, really. I mean, it gets a little more fucked up than that, because there's a statement that's really irked me since the moment I heard it from BELLE AUBREY.
And it's not as if she has the decency to stay in the pro-ED community. She also is merging into, like, the anime and cosplay.
Oh boy. Oh my god. It's so infuriating. Like, holy shit. BELLE. Eugenia isn't a disease. She's a person. She can have interests. Period. She can be into whatever the fuck she wants to be into, and she was always into this shit. Why is BELLE acting like this is fucking new? And this goes back to the idea that people just reinforcing that this disease is all she is, all Eugenia is, and when you do something like that, how the fuck do you expect her to, like, ever get out of this if that's all she hears every day, all day? And statements like that, even though BELLE claims she wants to help Eugenia, but she's saying shit like that is so unbelievably dehumanizing. She left that in the video. BELLE AUBREY left that statement, that completely dehumanizing statement that undercuts all of the claims of her wanting Eugenia to actually get better. Because she doesn't see her as a person, she sees her as a disease. That's a character flaw. You need to work on that. So, to wrap this up, maybe we can all stop being massive dicks to a clearly unwell person who, like, people accuse of stuff that I talked about in the beginning of this. Mostly the first thing that I mentioned. That's the thing that I really would like everybody to stop acting like that is true, because it's not. If it was true, you guys should have brought more evidence to the table, and you never did. So shut your goddamn mouths. So, I think it'd be a good idea to, like, if you guys can't stop, doing the things you're doing, maybe you should take Eugenia's advice and just stop watching it. The next video will be much more lighthearted and a lot more fun. So look forward to that.